All right. Hello, world, and welcome back. This is episode number 5 of Real Estate Solutions. Not going to be able to do it on one hand anymore soon. We are taking a look at some properties in Providence as per our norm for the next couple of weeks. Plan is to spend about a month here in Providence, and we'll look at another market. Generally speaking, I'm looking at Boston submarkets first before looking anything further afield. These are areas that I have access to more easily. There are also areas that I'm a little bit more familiar with as I've grown up in Massachusetts. As per my norm, please do not sue me for following my advice. If you do exactly what I say in these, I cannot promise results. These are just my personal analysis on the properties. Take a look at them though. I think it's a great starting point. Always recommend doing your own analysis. What we're going to do now is I'm going to switch over to sharing my screen and we're going to start looking at some properties. So here we go. We are in the Providence real estate market. I actually have one property in mind. This one is pretty expensive. I don't think it's going to work out, but I'm curious. This is a 4-family on the east side of Providence. We're going to try and find that right now. It is listed for $695. It's listed as coming soon, so it's actually not on Realtor.com. So I'm just going to have to go by the address, 107 Arnold Street. We're going to go on maps just to give ourselves a sense of it, find out where exactly we're looking at. So 107 Arnold Street, Providence. Here we go. All right, so we are right near Fox Point, not far from Brown University. I do like the look of that. That seems like a pretty good location. Next time, I will just go ahead and take a look at this video with you. So what we're going to do next is go ahead and take a look at Rent-A-Meter. This, generally speaking, is going to analyze a little bit high because it's going to be skewed by single families and luxury condos, but we'll give ourselves a sense of it. Anyway, last year, we have their actual rents in place. This is a 4-bed, 1-bed, 2-bed, 4-bed. Last year, they rented for $2,050, $885, $1,110, and $2,050. I think there is potential to juice that up a little bit higher, but knowing that this is what they got for it, this is a good conservative number. It's all vacant right now, which is awesome. This is definitely someone who's making it a little bit easier for us. We'll look through these photos real quick. This is currently listed as coming soon, which basically just means, oh, that needs a little bit of work. So this is not a pretty property. It definitely needs to be juiced up, which also means there's some upside potential in the rents. I bet we can drive them a little bit higher. This unit looks a little bit better, but again, everything definitely needs some refreshing. I'd call this a light cosmetic. We're mostly looking at repainting. Could definitely stand to replace a couple of appliances. So we'll assume about 15 grand a unit between painting and putting in a couple of better appliances. It doesn't look like there's anything massive. It's not like there's tremendous water damage anywhere. So I'm not personally looking out for like, oh God, there's going to be some plumbing. But with any property, you should always, always, always pay for an inspection. $400 or $500 will save you a world of hurt. Doesn't mean an inspector is going to find everything. There's no guarantees in this game. However, you are going to be way better informed if you use a good inspector than if you don't. I always look at this stuff myself, and I'll try to identify what I can. There's really nothing I can tell you from this photo of the basement, except that there is some coin-op laundry, which I like. Looks like there's at least 2 separate boilers. Hopefully there's 4. Otherwise, there's going to be some units, possibly all, that are not sub-metered, and that is a problem. We will not know until we know, however. So we're going to assume, okay, I see at least 3 meters on the side there. We're going to assume that some of it is sub-metered, if not all. So we're going to hope for the best here. They are offering it as a package with another unit, but we're just going to analyze this one by itself. So we're looking at 107 to 109 Arnold Street, east side of Providence, 02906. So we're going to go 107 Arnold Street, 02906. And we're going to take a look first at that 4-bed and 1 bath. We go apartment / condo analysis. For this area, this rent is definitely below market. So one good thing is that we are absolutely going to see some upside when we refresh those units and make them nice. I think we can realistically get $2,300 no problem. So we're going to go into our detailed analysis just because I want to go deep on this one. So we are looking at 107 Arnold Street, Providence. So you know we don't have our Realtor.com link for this one, but that's fine. 02906. So we'll delete that link. Asking price is $675. We got 4 units total, and we have, I believe this is 11 bedrooms. 8, 10, 11. Yep, 11. And living area square footage is at 5,000 plus. I don't see the total lot size. Lot size is 4840. So we're going to go 5,000 and 4840. So this is not a big property. I'm guessing there's not going to be parking. We don't necessarily need it for this area. There's a good chance that we can get some student rentals. It's also pretty close to the river, which is always nice. There should be some decent desirability to this. It's obviously not a waterfront property, but it's in pretty good location. Looks like the exterior could use a little bit of updating. Electrical looks decent. I believe it said the mechanicals have been updated, yet recent mechanicals. So we probably won't have to do a big replacement there. Again, this is not going to be a massive rehab. I'm assuming some light cosmetic, 15K a unit. They're still going to come in pretty expensive since there are 4 units, 675. So this is definitely not a light lift. You're going to need some cash to get in there. We got 2 4-beds. We got 1 2-bed and 1 1-bed. Last year they had 2,050 for the 4-beds, and they had 1,100 and 850. Those rents can definitely come up. I think we can get 1,000. Let's go ahead and actually analyze this stuff. So we're going to go 2,300 for the 4-beds. We're going to assume, there we go, 1,300 for the 2-bed. I like that a lot more already. Definitely some room to run up with that. And then that 1-bed, I'm betting 1,000, maybe even 1,100. Yeah, we've got 1,100 there. So 11,000, that would be amazing. All right, so with 1,100, 13, 23, there's already a big swing. That's an additional $12,000 of annual income over what they were previously estimating. There might even be room to run that up higher. That 12,000 certainly justifies 60K in repairs. Again, we're assuming a 4.5% interest rate, 30-year amortization. If you have a track record or you're willing to hustle to shop around, you may be able to get a better interest rate. But again, I'm just trying to keep things conservative. These property taxes are probably on the high end. It's a possibility that you could be getting something a little bit lower, maybe even saving 5 or 6 or 7 grand, depending on where that appraisal comes, or excuse me, tax assessor comes back versus the actual current value. We're going to go 8% in each of these categories for the reserves here. This is one building, and it's an expensive one, so I think we can comfortably come in below that. Again, even with the existing rents, we can drop those down to 8%. So that's going to give us a little bit more breathing room. We are looking at a negative net cash flow, so something's got to give. We're either going to need to spend a little bit less on that purchase price, get a better interest rate, put a little more cash down, get a better rate on the property taxes. Something has got to give with this. I think the obvious easiest move here would be to drop down that purchase price. Maybe we bring it down to 645. Then we're getting to that just barely break even. We are going to be getting a lot of loan pay down. This is a massive amount of cash down. I don't love this property. It's just not good enough for my personal use. I think if you were going to live in the 1-bed and rent everything else out, you'd be in a pretty good position because you'd then be having a cost of living of like $1,000, because then you're going to assume you're managing it yourself. You're going to reduce your vacancy by, again, being really on top of it. Your repairs and maintenance, your CapEx, all those things can come down a little bit if you're living there and you're really like right there and on top of it constantly. That's going to save you some money. The only way I think this one could really work is if you're doing a house hack, living in that 1 or 2-bed. You can definitely save a little bit there. Again, I don't love this property. I think we can move on to another one. But we'll go ahead and save that. And we're going to go ahead and make a new document so that we can run another analysis. We're going to go one more property real quick here. We're going to pick something in the lower price point. So let's take a look up here a little further north. Let me see. Here is something interesting. I haven't taken a look at a lot of duplexes because generally speaking, I'm not a fan. Duplexes are going to be better for a house hack. You're going to have a higher relative amount of repairs versus your normal, if you have a 3 or 4 unit. However, the numbers that I'm running, these reserves do reflect numbers that investors will often use for a single family. So it doesn't mean that you can't make it work. Generally speaking, the more units you have under one roof, the lower your reserves can be for everything, period, all over the place. You're going to spend a little bit less in maintenance and management. if you have more units in one place. We'll keep those 8% numbers for the duplex. Looks like the former rents on this one were at $925 and $850. Obviously, we're going to need to juice those up, but let's take a look at that neighborhood. 58 Russo Street. Let's see if we can find it on Realtor.com. That is over by Charles, which I don't know that neighborhood. I did have a filter running for 3+ baths. I'm going to drop that down to 2+, so that property does show up. And here we go. So you can see I had a 3-family right next to it. So this is not going to be one that I think is going to pencil out amazing. But this is just a curiosity for me. So we got a 2-bed in one unit and a 1-bed in the other. Again, this is not as juicy as I would typically look at, but we're going to see just what happens with this lower price point, because I've generally avoided these duplexes in Providence, and I'm curious. We're going to assume, looking at these photos, really very little needs to be done. You are going to need to put in appliances, but these properties appear to be in great condition. Looks like you're only putting appliances into one unit. We definitely need to make sure that that's a contingency there. But these are very attractive units if these photos are to be believed. So I'm going to run my numbers with a very low repairs cost. I'm assuming that you can get in there and just make sure those appliances are juicy, repaint, maybe repaint the cabinets, and get in and out with 15 or 20 grand of repairs. I'll put it in the 20 grand. I would rather overestimate for you guys than underestimate. These are obviously not going to be the rents here. We have 0 4-beds. We are just looking at a 1-bed and a 2-bed. The 2-bed was at $925. That's going to need to come up, and the 1-bed was at $850. All right, so I think we can comfortably assume that those rents are going to come up, but let's find out how much. So we're going to go ahead and highlight that address again, pop in these numbers. What's that 1-bed going to pop in at? We're looking at $960 to $1075 at that median. So I think we can get 1,000. We're not going to juice it way up. Unfortunately, with a 1-bed, you don't really have room to get creative to make it nicer. 2-beds, it looks like, are really not much more expensive either. We'll assume we can get 1,100. And we have a total of 2 units. 2 units, perfect. So we're going to run these numbers based on this. We're looking at total annual income of about $25,000 for the 2 units combined. It's not bad. We're looking at something exceeding the 1% or just barely under the 1% rule. 1% rule is you want the total rents to be equal to 1% of the property value. Right now, that's going to be this. So total rents coming in are $2,100 per month. That means we'd really want to see a purchase price of $210. So in fact, we'll go ahead and assume that. Given that that's not a huge swing down, I do think it's possible. Providence is pretty hot, but I think a lot of it is investors. So we're not going to see, I'm expecting not as much movement in this. It is a new property, so that may go. I could be wrong. But I think if you were to come in right now, this second, with 210 and say, I will close immediately, you might have a chance with that. Especially the 25% down payment. Then you're competing with FHA buyers. Even if one of them does give 10 or 20,000 more than you, the seller may not want to stick around for that. I don't know if they're going to qualify element. Property taxes obviously are a lot lower because this property value is a lot lower. We're still looking at a negative cash flow, which means we need to save something. Another big factor to consider is the reserves that we're setting are so much lower because this property is worth less. So I don't love this. I really think that the only way to make this one work would be to go as an owner-occupant, to assume that we're really just renting out the 2-bed. And then our property taxes are down to 37, and we're actually just self-managing. So we're looking at nothing for management. We're going to assume vacancy doesn't need to be as high repairs. Even that, we're still looking at an $840 cost of living to live in that 1-bed. It seems like based on Providence prices, if you really shop around, you might even be able to find that for yourself on market as a rental. The only benefit you would have would be the equity capture over time, and that you are setting aside some reserves, a couple hundred every month. I don't see this as a good property. It's not a great house hack. It's not a great investment. I would stay away from duplexes in Providence. I think they're overpriced. That is my quick numbers for this evening. I'm going to stop it right at 2 properties just because it is time for me to make some dinner, having a little bit of pizza. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful evening. Stay safe and take care. Talk to you tomorrow.